Before we begin, a short note. We have done our very best to gather accurate information from open source reporting, court documents, and international media. If you find anything in this episode you disagree with, or if you have additional details, please contact us. We genuinely want to get these stories right. This case has no political or geopolitical agenda. It is shared for purely informative and educational purposes. In February 2003, on a frozen dirt road outside a farmhouse near Kutná Hora, a patrol officer stopped a tall man and a younger woman walking away from nowhere in particular. He had seen the man before. His name was on a list of local suspects. That same evening, a 78-year-old pensioner named Josef Peroutka crawled out of his own cellar and dialed the police. He had been locked inside by a couple who had knocked on his door, pretending his pregnant wife had collapsed. What investigators would soon discover was that Peroutka was not the first elderly person this couple had visited. He was simply the first one they had failed to kill. This is the story of Jaroslav and Dana Stodolovi, the worst serial killers in the history of the Czech Republic. To understand how 8 murders could go undetected for over a year, you have to understand the Czech Republic of the early 2000s. A decade after the Velvet Revolution, the country was still navigating the long transition from communism to modern democracy. In the rural heartland of Central Bohemia, the Kutná Hora district, with its sleepy villages of Slavoshov, Šabeříč, and Miškovský, life moved slowly. Elderly pensioners, many of them widowed or living alone, kept their savings in cash at home, a holdover habit from decades of distrust in state institutions. Local police stations were understaffed, undertrained, and accustomed to classifying the deaths of elderly villagers as suicides or natural causes. It was a landscape of isolation, and in that isolation, 2 people saw opportunity. Jaroslav Stodola was born on May 8, 1966, in the village of Šabeříč. He grew up in a broken home with an alcoholic, violent father, was transferred from regular school to a special school, and drifted through a series of low-paid manual jobs, a shoe factory, a cobbler's workshop, odd agricultural work. By adulthood, he had 4 criminal convictions, all for theft. People who knew him described him as quiet when sober, but aggressive when he drank. Dana Bábiková was born in southern Slovakia on July 19, 1970. Her father was also violent. She married for the first time at 15 and had a daughter a year later. After a divorce, she moved to the Czech Republic, married again, spent time in Canada where she says she was assaulted in 1997, and returned home addicted to sedatives. When she and Jaroslav reconnected in a doctor's waiting room in 2001, both were unemployed, deeply in debt, and living in a workers' dormitory. According to investigators, it was Dana who first proposed a solution to their financial problems: robbing an elderly neighbor. On September 30th, 2001, the couple made their first move. They targeted Alois Miškovský, a 77-year-old pensioner in Šabeříč known for lending money. Wearing masks, they forced their way into his home, threatened him with a knife, and made him hand over approximately 160,000 Czech crowns. They tied him up and left. Miškovský was not found for 2 days. He survived the attack, but his health never recovered. He died less than a year later. This robbery marked the crossing of a line from petty theft to violent crime against a defenseless old man, but it was only the beginning. On November 16, 2001, the couple escalated to murder. Their target was an elderly neighbor in Slavoshov, a man in his mid-70s who kept savings at home. That night, Jaroslav drank nearly 3 liters of homemade wine, while he and Dana planned the attack. Dana helped him put on a long black wig and pull a nylon stocking over his face. Around 3 in the morning, Jaroslav climbed over the fence, entered the house while the victim was in the cowshed, and hid behind a curtain. When the old man returned, Jaroslav knocked him to the ground and demanded money. The victim handed over around 40,000 crowns, but then managed to rip off the wig and stocking, seeing Jaroslav's face. Fearing recognition, Jaroslav strangled him with his bare hands. He carried the body to the bed, covered it with a duvet, and placed lit candles around it before leaving. Those candles started a fire that partially destroyed the house, and, with it, crucial forensic evidence. A local doctor recorded the cause of death as burning, probably suicide. The pathologist who conducted the autopsy failed to notice a fractured hyoid bone and hemorrhaging in the neck, textbook signs of strangulation. The case was closed in January 2002 as a non-criminal death. And Jaroslav Stodola. He rang the church bell at his victim's funeral and attended the wake, where the family served him food. 12 days later, on November 28th, the couple struck again, this time targeting Růžena Skohoutilová, a woman in her late 60s living near Dana's mother in Slavoshov. Dana had pushed Jaroslav for days, insisting they attack the neighbor, who was known for wearing jewelry and suspected of keeping money at home. That evening, Dana broke a window pane in the front door with a carpenter's nail puller, reached in to turn the key, and entered the house while the hard-of-hearing victim watched loud television. Together, they beat and tied Skohoutilová, demanding money. When she refused to reveal her hiding places, Jaroslav strangled her with a scarf and smothered her with a pillow. They found 50,000 crowns under the bed, then dug a shallow grave at the old compost heap in the garden, burying the body along with everyday belongings and documents to create the impression she had simply left. Dana even answered a phone call from the victim's daughter, holding a handkerchief over the receiver to disguise her voice, assuring the daughter that her mother was away. When police finally investigated the disappearance, they found blood in the house but failed to inspect the garden carefully enough to notice the freshly disturbed soil. Months later, the victim's son-in-law discovered a human hand protruding from the earth while planting a greenhouse stake. Police then exhumed the body, but instead of finding the real killers, they arrested 3 innocent men who spent months in pre-trial detention before being cleared. In the summer of 2002, the couple committed a double murder that would become one of the most disturbing episodes in the case. Antonin Král, 66, and his wife Marie, 62, lived in the village of Miškovský. The Stodolovi approached Antonin in his garden, asking for water. Once inside, they separated the spouses into different rooms, tied them to chairs, and violently demanded to know where their money was hidden. Fearing for her husband, Marie revealed a hiding spot with 10,000 crowns. After securing the cash and some valuables, Dana gave Jaroslav a nod, a head signal prosecutors later described as the order to finish it. Jaroslav cut the electric cable from a lamp and strangled Antonin from behind as he sat tied to a chair. Then he strangled Marie. The couple smoked cigarettes in the kitchen, took what they could carry, a VCR, a radio, watches, and then opened every burner on the gas stove, leaving the propane to fill the house. They wanted it to look like a gas leak. Jaroslav locked the front door from inside and climbed out through a small toilet window. When neighbors found the bodies, authorities attributed the deaths to gas poisoning. The autopsy missed the strangulation marks. The gas safety experts noted the cylinder shouldn't have produced lethal conditions, and the couple were non-smokers. Yet cigarette butts sat in the kitchen, never tested for DNA. Despite all these contradictions, the case was closed on December 31st, 2002, as non-criminal. Between the summer and autumn of 2002, the couple continued to attack. On August 11th, they robbed Růžena and Václav Hromas in Čabezice, a couple who survived only by chance. Then in September, Dana traveled alone by train to South Bohemia, spinning a story about being a flood victim to gain lodging with 78-year-old Marie Stodolova in the small town of Kardašova Řečice. When the landlady caught Dana searching through her belongings the next day, Dana attacked immediately, tying Stodolova to a chair, tightening a belt around her neck, striking her twice with a wooden rolling pin, and stabbing her 4 times in the chest with a kitchen knife. She stole 20,000 crowns, meticulously cleaned the floors to remove blood, spent the night in the same house with the body, and hitchhiked home the next morning without telling Jaroslav what she had done. This murder, committed entirely by Dana, acting alone, would later destroy her defense that she was merely a passive, manipulated wife. On October 28, 2002, the couple targeted another Slavoshov neighbor, 81-year-old Josef Malina, a man who had openly bragged about his savings. They waited for him to open his door in the morning. Jaroslav struck him on the head, and together they dragged the semi-conscious man up steep stairs to the attic. There, they wrapped a telephone cable around his neck and tried to hoist him to a beam to make it look like a hanging. The cable snapped. Malina fell to the floor. Jaroslav kicked him repeatedly until he died, then propped the body with the cable around his neck and a toppled stool nearby. They stole about 10,000 crowns, but never found the nearly 2 million crowns Malina had hidden in savings passbooks. When police discovered the body, a doctor declared it death by hanging with no signs of struggle. A forensic pathologist at a Prague hospital did notice 11 separate injuries consistent with violence and called the Kutná Hora police to report it. He was told the case was a clear suicide and the injuries came from a fall. He closed the autopsy as suicide by hanging. The case was filed away. On December 2, 2002, the violence reached a new extreme. The couple were now living in a workers' dormitory in Brněnec, about 50 meters from a house where 92-year-old Božena Čerháková lived with her daughter Helena, aged 52. Helena's sister Dagmar Vajsová, 62, was visiting that day. The couple assumed Helena was wealthy because she had considered buying the dormitory building. Jaroslav climbed through a small ventilation window above the entrance, opened the door for Dana, and they moved through the house. Jaroslav strangled Dagmar with a scarf, then pressed his full 90-kilogram body weight onto Božena's frail frame, smothering her with a pillow. He believed she was dead. They forced Helena to reveal money and savings books, then decided to stage the scene as a family quarrel followed by suicide. Jaroslav strangled Helena in the bathtub. Dana cut her wrists afterward. They left with about 10,000 crowns and 3 savings books, later withdrawing roughly 39,500 crowns from a bank in Kutná Hora. But Božena Čerháková was not dead. When rescuers found her, confused and disoriented, she spoke of musketeers fencing in the flat. But she also said something that would crack the case wide open. She mentioned the tall one from Kolar's villa, the local name for the dormitory where Jaroslav lived, just 50 meters away. For over a year, the Stodolovi had operated with near total impunity, and not because they were criminal masterminds. The truth was far more troubling. At least 4 of their murders had been officially classified as suicides or accidental deaths. In the case of the first victim, a pathologist missed a fractured hyoid bone. In the Král double murder, cigarette butts from non-smoking victims were collected, but never DNA tested. Josef Malina's 11 injuries were explained away over the phone. Police at the district level were understaffed, under-equipped, and dangerously reliant on the simplest available narrative: that lonely, elderly villagers simply took their own lives. In the Skohoutilová case, 3 innocent men were arrested and jailed for months based on a superficial match to another robbery gang. The system didn't just fail. It failed repeatedly, predictably, and at every level. The end came on February 3, 2003. Near the hamlet of Hradec, outside Kutná Hora, Dana smeared herself with mud and pretended to collapse in front of the home of 78-year-old Josef Peroutka. Jaroslav knocked on the door, asking for water for his supposedly pregnant wife. Once inside, he pulled a knife and locked the old man in the cellar. They searched the house but found only sweets and a mobile phone. On their way out, they passed a patrol officer who recognized Jaroslav, an officer who had previously investigated suspicious deaths around Slavosov and already had Jaroslav on his mental list of potential suspects. He found their explanation unconvincing but let them go. That evening, Peroutka escaped from the cellar and called police. The officer connected the dots. The next day, Jaroslav and Dana Stodolovi were arrested. Once in custody, Jaroslav confessed quickly. He initially claimed he had acted alone in all the killings, trying to shield Dana, but detailed crime scene reconstructions exposed the lie. When investigators walked him through the Stodolova murder in Kardašova Řečice, he couldn't describe the stab wounds or the rolling pin, because he hadn't been there. Dana had killed Marie Stodolova by herself. Confronted with this evidence, Jaroslav stopped protecting her and gave a full, internally consistent account of every robbery and murder. Dana resisted longer. She minimized her role, insisting she was a dominated, frightened wife. But court-appointed psychiatrists rejected that narrative entirely, concluding that leadership shifted between the two and that Dana sometimes initiated the attacks. Meanwhile, bodies were exhumed across Central Bohemia. Second autopsies on victims previously classified as suicides revealed what had been missed the first time: fractured hyoid bones, hemorrhaging in neck tissues, injuries that screamed homicide. The truth that had been buried, sometimes literally, was finally coming to light. On April 26, 2004, the regional court in Hradec Králové delivered its verdict. Jaroslav and Dana Stodolovi were found guilty of 8 murders, 2 attempted murders, and a total of 21 serious criminal offenses. The court described the crimes as exceptionally socially dangerous. The prolonged, systematic targeting of defenseless elderly people, motivated purely by the desire for effortless profit, carried out with particular cruelty, and followed by the deliberate murder of witnesses. Both defendants were sentenced to life imprisonment, the harshest penalty under Czech law since the abolition of the death penalty in 1990. Dana's lawyer argued she deserved at most 15 years. The court disagreed. The High Court in Prague confirmed the life sentences on August 30, 2004. The Supreme Court dismissed their final appeals in March 2005. The sentences became permanent. The fallout extended far beyond the courtroom. The Czech police president ordered a nationwide review of over 2,100 cases initially classified as suicides. 552 were flagged as suspicious. 27 were reopened for renewed criminal investigation. 4 senior officers from the Kutná Hora district were recommended for criminal prosecution for negligent obstruction of duty, but the state prosecutor declined to indict them. They received only disciplinary measures. The district prosecutor who had supervised the early cases received a formal reprimand and later resigned. No one in the system that had allowed 8 murders to be filed away as suicides was ever criminally convicted. The couple divorced in 2006. As of the most recent public reporting, both remain in separate high-security prisons, serving their life sentences. Under Czech law, they may apply for conditional release after 20 years. There is no public record that either has been released. The case of Jaroslav and Dana Stodolovi is not just a story about 2 killers. It is a story about a system that looked the other way, about understaffed police stations, lazy assumptions, autopsies that missed what should have been obvious, and a quiet countryside where elderly people died and no one asked the right questions. 8 people lost their lives. 3 innocent men went to prison for a crime they didn't commit. And for over a year, the only thing standing between the Stodolovi and their next victim was the locked door of the next farmhouse. What do you think? Could a case like this still go undetected today? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more cases like this from Eastern Europe, like this video and subscribe.